Good afternoon, friends. It's an honor and privilege to be here. My name is Sailesh Manjrekar. I'm the head of Big Data Products and Analytics for a company based in Silicon Valley. I'm based there for the last 20 years, primarily, when this opportunity came along, I jumped on it for a number of reasons. So I'm one of those guys who is Indian at heart, global in spirit, and when the CEO, Miracle CEO, Mr. Prasad Lokam, invited me to be part of this initiative, it was really a privilege and honor to be part of this noble cause. So in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll be walking you through essentially why digital transformation is important, okay? And what better time and place to talk about digital transformation? This country is really at a crossroads. I'm sure everybody has heard about demonetization, right? And that's remarkably linked to digital transformation, okay? And I'll walk you through how. So real quick, as I said, I represent Western Digital. So this is a company based in Silicon Valley. We are a federation of Western Digital, Hitachi Global Systems, and SanDisk. And by far, we are one of the largest storage companies in the world. Okay, a $20 billion company. So what is digital transformation? So essentially, it's really about digital practices, digital business models, right, to be able to serve in this digital economy, right? To be, in simple terms, something you can relate to, right? Essentially, what demonetization is doing today is being able to take the transactions which used to happen with physical money or physical cash, right? They'll be transacted in a digital terms going forward, right? So that's what demonetization is, and I'm sure all of you can relate to that. That's the fundamental of digital transformation. Okay. So why is this so important? So I'm sure you guys can again, you must have heard about number of companies which really were at one point in time really the crop in the technology world, right? So Kodak, for example, almost had 90% of film sales at one point, right? The problem was they were not able to adapt to the digital economy, right? Resulting in the demise or bankruptcy in 2012. Another example for folks back in the US or folks who've been watching US is Blockbuster Videos, one of the largest video chains out in the United States. Again, they had an opportunity to be able to buy Netflix at one point for $50 million. Okay, they were foolish enough to not take that offer, and by far, Netflix is today one of the Fortune 500 companies, the king of streaming media. The third example is around Borders, right? Again, another company which was a brick and mortar store back in the United States, did not foresee the digital transformation happening. Okay, and I'm sure you guys know about Amazon, a small company by the name of Amazon, which has a 300 plus billion-dollar cap, right? So these are really examples of companies which could not foresee the digital transformation and had to die. Okay? On the contrary, if you look at other companies who were able to adapt and change, right? They were able to change the business models and were able to thrive, right? Examples are obviously companies like Netflix, king of streaming media, right? But ironically, don't have any brick and mortar, theaters out there. Look at Uber, for example. It's another company which does not own any taxis, right? The traditional taxis like you look at. Look at Society One. So people talked here on the dais earlier about fintechs, right? So this is really revolutionizing the financial world or the banking world, right? So fintechs are all about the new crop of digital banking. Okay? So these are really examples of companies who have been able to transform through digital transformation, right? Lay out new business models and really make a mark for themselves. Okay, so what is causing this digital transformation, right? So obviously, Moore's law is one of the fundamental reasons, right? The processing power is becoming so much of a commodity. It's really giving rise to new digital transformation. Okay? Globalization, of course, the value chain is shifting. So all of this digital companies, what you saw, right? So typically in the value chain, you have a producer, consumer, and the intermediary, right? So with this digital economy, the power is shifting towards the consumer. So take example of companies like Yelp, example of companies like TripAdvisor, multi-billion-dollar cap companies, right? But essentially being able to provide the power to the end user who can now transform and be responsible for his own fate. Of course, another big disruption is around attention economy, right? So when you guys go and browse Google, you are targeted in particular ad which is personalized for you guys, right? So that's called really about attention economy, mobile computing, and so on, right? So these are really vectors of change which are really transforming digital transformation. Okay, so the third platform is all about applications which are really social, mobile, and real time, right? So IDC has really categorized this category as the third platform applications. These are fundamentally different than what you're used to in the second platform world applications like Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, right? So the third platform world is all about billions of apps, cloud native applications, right, and so on. So, and again, a huge CAGR associated with the third platform. Okay, so again, real quick. So, what is really happening in this third platform world is analytics becoming a cornerstone technology, right? And you hear about terms like descriptive, which is all about taking stock of what you have, to predictive, right, where you are doing an what if analysis, to prescriptive, right, where you are essentially taking action based on the insight, right, and eventually going to cognitive analytics, which you'll be learning over the next 5 or 6 days a lot, right? So cognitive is basically taking it to the next level where you are essentially being able to use those insights, right, being able to learn to adapt and so on and so forth. Okay, so the cognitive era is not something which is out there in the future. It's already here today, right? And it's essentially moving from platforms which were data centric, which were essentially e-business centric, to moving towards platforms which are really based on big data analytics and cognition. Okay? So you'll see this being applied towards pretty much all walks of life, right? So you must have heard about precision farming. So companies like John Deere are adapting this big time. Essentially, the idea is not just being a product company, but being able to utilize data as a critical asset to be able to influence the work you're doing, right? In terms of, in this particular case, it would be farming, right? Things like personalized treatment, right? So genomics, for example, is a big field which is growing enormously, and it's all about providing personalized medicine, right? So if you look around, right, so pretty much 99% of the DNA among all human beings is same, right? That 1% variation is different, which is where you would want to derive the insights from and provide personalized medicine, which is primarily targeted for you. Same thing happening with cobots, right? So these are the new crops of robots which are cognitive in nature. Self-driving cars is really a reality. So I live in close to Palo Alto, so you very frequently see, cars which are self-driving, right? From Google, from Uber is also launching an initiative for self-driving cars. So as you can see, cognitive is right here, right? It's not something which is happening in future. Okay, so it's essentially about, there's a lot of data being generated, right? So the applications really are data rich, right? But how do you make value out of that data, right? How do you move towards knowledge and towards wisdom? And that's really what cognitive is trying to do, right? Derive really value out of all that data generated and make that data usable. Okay, so data is really becoming an asset. So companies like IBM obviously are using this to their advantage, right? And there is a new economy which has been formed, which is primarily around a digital decision support economy, right? So it's really about how do you make decisions based on all of this data, and it's going to be humongous, right? So if you look at the value, it's going to be almost bigger than what the information technology or the productivity-based environment was able to provide, right? So almost $2 trillion economy based on decision support systems, and that's where cognitive is going to play a very important role. Okay, so the real question to ask is, right, are you guys there, right? So this is really meant for CXOs. So if you see, really only 8% of the CXOs are ready, are actually doing anything with innovation, right? Most of their time is spent on, keeping the lights on. That's precisely where cognitive can help, where they can leverage this technology to be able to spend most of their time innovating for their businesses. Okay? So how do you go about this, right? So there are various levels you can go about digital transformation. Obviously, at the data center level, right? You can do it at application re-engineering level, and most importantly, be able to do it where you can derive business value, right? So it's really all about deriving business value and being able to, improve your top line, reduce your risk, and improve your productivity. Okay, so you might hear terms around data lake, so which is essentially an consolidation technology, right? You're putting everything together in your data center. You hear technologies like X as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So these are really the new tenets of the digital transformation, right? Technologies like cloud native applications, which are fundamentally different than the second platform applications, right? The second platform applications were all about, essentially tied to an infrastructure. They were about, uh, uh, you know, um, the third platform applications are fundamentally different, what we call shared state, right? Services like microservices. So this allow you to be able to write applications which are modular in nature, and technologies like DevOps, where development and operations are collaborating for the next infrastructure paradigm. Right. So these are the building blocks for what you'll hear about in digital transformation. Yeah, obviously there are going to be challenges around how you would be able to leverage cognitive technology for digital transformation, right? So challenges are around how do you unify information across all the business silos? How do you leverage unstructured content, right? And finally, how are you able to scale your expertise when the data is going at such an enormous rate? So I'm going to go real quick, right? So I picked up an example, which is IBM Watson. I'm sure a lot of people here can relate to that technology. From what I understand, there are a lot of people who are working from Miracle on IBM Watson, right? So this is an example of cognitive product technology and paradigm, right? So there are other products as well, right? But let's look at what really a cognitive product looks like. So it's really all about taking data, being able to analyze that, and taking it a step further using the cognitive processes and applications to derive really knowledge out of it, right? So it's really about not just understanding, but being able to reason, being able to adapt, being able to learn, and being able to interact, right? So cognitive systems and cognitive technology is able to essentially interact just like what human nature or human beings can, right? So it can basically do things like natural language processing, it can do artificial intelligence, it can do, pattern recognition, and so on and so forth, right? So it's an evolution primarily from search to natural language processing search, right? And so on, and being able to build up on top of the business value as you go through each of these paradigms. Okay. So again, when we talk about unstructured data, it's really about unstructured data is not just about text, right? It's about semi-structured, unstructured data, but more importantly, also about different data types, which is, be it audio, be it video, be it multimedia, and so on and so forth. So cognitive systems need to be able to adapt to all kind of these data types. Okay, so essentially what cognitive does, or how it's different than big data analytics, right? I'm sure you guys know about predictive and prescriptive analytics, but cognitive takes it a step further, being able to provide you that context, right? Or essentially answer the why behind the what, right? It's able to correlate things so you can understand what's the context, right? And there are examples here across industries, be it healthcare, insurance, and so on, right? But it really provides you a different dimension when you're talking about the why associated with the what. Okay, so some of the emerging patterns for AI adoption in business world is all about, you would see cognitive systems being used for text mining, being used for speech mining, being used for audio mining, and so on and so forth. Okay? And these are the technologies which are primarily the building blocks for cognitive computing. So let's look at some of the examples. So this is an example of how Watson essentially takes unstructured data and is able to derive value out of it, right? Being able to derive and structure out of it, so you can get to the whys associated with with the unstructured data. Okay, this is the capability to mine the audio within a video and be able to provide you examples of similar audios or videos based on the mining of this audio streams. Okay, lastly, it's about multimedia, right? So being able to derive again value out of a multimedia stream, being able to analyze that, right, and be able to garner value out of it. Okay, and then finally putting all of this together. So IBM Watson is all about really deriving value from unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data set, right? So you would have information coming out of your structured data sets, which is your standard ERP, CRM applications, and being able to combine that with the unstructured data sets to provide a holistic dimension. So this is how Watson is structured. As you can see, the data piece is provided by a number of different elements, right? It's provided by IBM, it can be provided by public sources, it can be partner provided, or it can be provided by private cloud, right? Which is what has been mined or leveraged by the IBM infrastructure services. And IBM also works with a number of ecosystem partners to be able to provide that subject matter expertise or domain knowledge. So let's look at a couple of vertical use cases, right, which we in particular Western Digital is involved in. So again, cognitive analytics is used across verticals, right? So in financials, you would see cognitive analytics used for customer prediction, customer churn prediction, for anti-money laundering use cases in the financial world, in the banking world. You would see it being used in healthcare and genomics processing, which is another field which is marked, a lot with the next generation of cognitive processing. In the retail, you would see virtual assistants being leveraged using cognitive technologies. In oil and gas vertical, you would see for IoT use cases, Internet of Everything, right? And finally, in media and entertainment for customer and churn analytics. Okay? So let's look at a couple different examples. So again, Internet of Things and Internet of Everything is a huge market. Okay? It's all about bridging the gap between the physical world and the digital world, right? So when you are putting in sensors and connecting the physical infrastructure onto the digital networks, you are able to now derive information, gain insights, and so on, from the physical world. Okay, it's a huge market. Almost, Cisco is pretty gung-ho about it. It's almost a $7 trillion dollar market with more than 50 billion devices been connected to the IP internet, and it's across the verticals. The industrial internet is an paradigm within Internet of Things, right? So it's essentially about big ions, right? So you might have heard about a General Electric predicts platform, right? So it's about being able to leverage a big ion and make them intelligent, right? And be able to do predictive analytics on top of this. Okay? And this is going to be fundamentally different than the internet of the regular internet, IP internet, what you're used to. Okay, so these are some of the examples of companies where you see applied use cases in the world of Internet of Things and so on, right? So these are mostly US startups primarily focusing on Internet of Things, right? So your IATA is an example of this. Ichilon is an example in the manufacturing section. Myovision in the traffic management. So these are real companies, real startups, which are doing really cutting edge work with Internet of Things and Internet of Everything, and with cognitive analytics to be able to provide, a digital transformation. Okay, another example is a company called Data RPM, which we in particular Western Digital works with. So this is a company again leveraging cognitive analytics. Okay, it leverages neural networks, metadata learning on top of being able to analyze unstructured data sets, and it primarily focuses around cognitive predictive analytics, right? So again, going back to the IoT world, right, or the IoE world, this is a company which is able to leverage cognitive analytics to be able to provide predictions around predictive maintenance. So just for the techies in the room, right? So this is how the stack looks like with data RPM. So as you can see, it's based on big data analytics, but then with the meta learning engine built on top of this, it really leverages cognitive technology to be able to learn and adapt and build that data assets to be able to provide you cognitive abilities. Okay, General Electric Predict platform is another example of IoT, right, or industrial internet. So General Electric has been doing phenomenal work in this space, right? So the whole Predicts platform is essentially a platform which is leveraging machine-to-machine communication. It's leveraging predictive analytics to be able to provide, predictions around, machines and big iron machines, right? In terms of when you would want to do maintenance on them, right? Or when you foresee maintenance happening. Okay, genomics processing is another big industry which has been affected by cognitive analytics, right? So as I said, there's only 1% variation in all human beings, right? So 99% of the DNA is pretty much same, right? But that 1% variation can provide you a lot of insights, right? Which allows you to really make predictions which are unique to you, right? And this is where technology like cognitive analytics is primarily being used. IBM is doing a lot of work, right? So we are also trying to leverage this technology for vertical integration. This is an area which is going to explode. So it's been predicted by 2025, about 2 billion people will have their genome processing. Okay, so out of 7 billion people on the universe, so almost about one-fourth of the people would be able to provide a genomic processing, or what they call next generation sequencing, right? And this data set is going to grow even bigger than what YouTube and Twitter is able to do, right? So the problem statement here. So this is again an industry which is ripe for really explosion, right? And the primary reason for that is the sequencing cost is coming down significantly, right? So initially what they used to call next generation sequencing used to be a fairly expensive proposition, right? Almost $10 million for processing a genome, right? That cost is significantly coming down with the advent of next generation technology with sequencing and so on and so forth. And really, IT is now becoming the bottleneck, right? So that's an area where new technologies can be applied, right? And that's really giving rise to bioinformatics. And there are a lot of big players in this area, right? So IBM Watson is a big player. There's Amazon, Google, and name the companies, right? So they're essentially there. Okay, so this is how IBM Watson Health Cloud looks like. So as you can see, the data is derived from a number of sources. It can be derived through public sources. It can be derived through IBM provided data sources. It comes from EHR, what we call electronic health records, right, with companies of the likes of Medtronic and so on, right. It can also come from unstructured data sets. So all of this data is combined to be able to provide knowledge, and then with industry solutions, right, you are able to build on top of that, provide the subject matter expertise or the domain knowledge to really derive knowledge out of it. Okay, and the third industry I'm going to talk about is the media and entertainment industry. You'll see here cognitive analytics being applied big time as well. Okay, so this industry again has various kind of pipelines within that industry, right? Where you are generating the content, you are distributing the content. There are over-the-top providers. Okay, so there are the two examples I'd like to point out are two startups by the name of Wiser, based again in North America, which is doing video streaming analytics. Okay, so being able to do facial recognition, being able to do pattern recognition, right, from a video stream in real time, right, is really the value prop of these companies, right? So this is a solution how you primarily with Wiser in particular, right? And we are also working with Wiser to be able to take that video streams and be able to analyze that either at the camera, IP camera level, or in the cloud, okay, and again build on top of it using deep learning and pattern recognition technologies. So how this is used is it's used in a number of ways, right? So it can be used for surveillance, video surveillance. It can be used for, provided targeted marketing, okay, retail marketing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are some of the value props of this company. Okay, so with that, right? So I'd like to summarize my talk. So hopefully this kind of gave you an insight into the market trends in the US, right? The different technologies or the vertical industries which are leveraging these technologies, right? And some of the use cases which can provide you food for thought as you go through your journey with digital transformation. So obviously, digital economy and cognitive era are here to stay, right? You got to innovate for not just survival, but for competitive differentiation. Okay? Leverage cognitive technology to transform yourself through the digital transformation. Okay, so this is a technology which would really enable you to kind of expedite your journey towards digital transformation. And then finally, leveraging this, adapt and thrive. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank you all. Thank you, Prasad, for inviting me here. It's been really a privilege and honor to be part of this initiative. Thank you.